Hey guys, I'm Patrick with Fstoppers.com, and today we're going to be taking a portrait out here on the beach. And as you may have remembered from my previous video, my favorite portrait lens is the 70-200, but today I'm going to mix things up by shooting with the Tamron 24-70 so I can get a completely different looking portrait. Now, as you know, a lot of photographers, we like to step back from our subject, zoom in, and shoot with a more telephoto lens so that we can really compress the background, blur it out, and make our subject stand out against that background. But in many cases, when you're at a great environment like this at the beach, or you're really in a tight space and you want to show off the environment, you're not going to be able to step back, or you're going to want to shoot wider so that you can capture all the little details that make the photo interesting in the first place. Now, out in this environment, obviously I can move around, I can step really far away from my subject and zoom in with a telephoto lens. But what I think is going to happen out here is I'm going to zoom in and just basically get a blank sky, a horizon line, and then there's not going to be much going on in the foreground. So let me get Dan in position. I'm going to take a shot with the telephoto lens and show you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, Dan, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you stand right here, and then the wind direction's going this way, so the kite's going to be to your right. What we're going to do is I'm going to take a test shot here of you with the telephoto lens, but we're also probably going to move down the beach so that we don't have all of this sand disrupted throughout the photo shoot. So go ahead and hold the kite up there. Let me grab my camera, and then I'm going to show you guys what this telephoto shot's going to look like if I zoom in maybe at like 70-200 millimeters. So as you can see, these photos that are shot closer to 200 millimeters, they look okay, but I've really eliminated all the cool elements of the beach. I'm not really that excited about it. So what I think I'm gonna do is shoot at 50 millimeters, maybe even 24 millimeters, and get much closer to my subject and really utilize this landscape and beach to my advantage. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. The closer I get to my subject with a 24 millimeter lens, it's gonna cause a lot of distortion, and that's true. But I think for an image like this, where Dan's got this big kite, it's going to really make the kite look larger than life, and it's going to create a much more dramatic and dynamic image to begin with. So as you can see from these test shots, I think a wide angle shot is going to be much better for this sort of situation. I've definitely underexposed the image because I think I'm going to light this with a strobe. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get some B1s out here. I'm going to light Dan and the kite with two different lights and see if we can get a really dramatic portrait looking down the beach. So if we look at the telephoto shot, I feel like this image is just fairly boring. Out here at the beach, we have a really blank blue sky. There's no clouds or drama in the sky at all. And because we don't have any topography here, it's just a very flat horizon. It's just a straight line. And all of the elements of the beach, the waves and the water, they don't really register the way that they do here on location with your natural eyes. So I don't think this image is that compelling. But now if you look at my final shot, because I shot wide angle, I was able to capture a lot of the sand. We have this nice sun casting shadows across the sand at a 45-degree angle, which is really nice. And then by using some lights, we were able to really dramatically light Dan in a way that makes this much more compelling than shooting the telephoto shot from far away. And another thing you'll notice in this shot is because the sky is so boring, I tried to focus more on the foreground by using more of the sand as the foreground element instead of framing up more of the sky. If we had a dramatic sky, maybe I would have done something completely different. But that's what I love about shooting a wide angle lens like the 24-70 is it gives you a lot of flexibility to compose and frame your shots depending on what's in your environment. Now this lens also has vibration compensation in it, which is great for video. I like to film a lot of behind the scenes video clips that I can then use for later productions. But I don't necessarily need that on out here at the beach because my shutter is going to be fast enough to give me a nice sharp image regardless of the shutter speed. Now, if you recall the previous video I did where I shot portraits at 70-200 millimeters, I almost exclusively shoot at 2.8 because I really want to blur that background. But when you start shooting at a wide angle like 24 millimeters, in many cases I could shoot at 5.6, f8. Today I think I was shooting at f4. It doesn't really matter because so much of the scene is going to be in focus. But if you find yourself shooting weddings or you're shooting indoors and you really want to use the bounce flash or you want to blur your background, it's really nice to have that 2.8 aperture on a wider angle lens. So even though the 70-200 lens is probably my favorite lens of all time, the Tamron 24-70 probably gets used more than any other lens I own. So I'm really happy with this photograph. Before we leave, let me just show you what I did with the lighting here, because I'm sure a lot of you guys out there are gonna wanna know. Basically, I have one ProPhoto B1 with a reflector dish, and I have that set up just camera right to light Dan from kind of the right side. And as you can see in this photograph, he's lit really well, but I feel like his kite is almost the main subject of this photo. So what I decided to do was add a second B1 light with a 10-degree spot grid on it. And so by firing this little bit of light into the left side of the frame, I think it brings a little more interest to the kite and balances out the entire photograph. If you guys enjoy content like this, head over to fstoppers.com, where we feature articles and videos every single day. And if you want to learn from some of the best photographers in the world, head over to fstoppers.com/store, where you can check out our full-length tutorials.